Howdy folks, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever the hell time of day it is, wherever the hell you are. Today we are talking about the Eldar at war. Now, the Eldar are a very fragile race. They don't often engage in direct combat when they don't have to. More often than not, they manipulate their enemies against each other or against themselves. But when the Eldar do go to war, they do it in style. Warriors of the Eldar, this is not including Guardians because they're pretty much militia. The military of the Eldar are dominated by the Aspect Warriors. Aspect Warriors are Eldar traveling the path of the warrior who have joined a particular aspect shrine. There are many warrior aspects. Each aspect is referred to as an aspect for some, aspect of the Eldar God of War Khaine, such as where Howling Banshees are fierce close combat specialists. Striking Scorpions represent the patient hunter sort of side of Khaine, and so on and so forth. An Eldar warrior, regardless of which aspect he chooses, develops something called a War Mask. A War Mask is a psychological state of being, and the purpose of the War Mask is to both shield the Eldar's personality and the core of their being, the core of their self, from the horrors of war, both of the things that they see and the things they commit. It also helps to prevent that Eldar from being... what's a good way to describe it? It prevents them from being taken by Khaine. It prevents them from becoming... the part of the purpose of the War Mask is to prevent them from becoming an Exarch. An Exarch is a warrior who is lost upon the path of the warrior. His personality is completely subsumed by the aspect he has chosen, or he or she. The War Mask is meant to both protect the Eldar at peace from the Eldar at war, and to protect the Eldar at peace from basically falling in love with war, violence, and killing. Anyone have anything they want to say to that?
I really like the whole concept of the War Mask, because the Eldar really are savage and ruthless in battle, and with their their psychic abilities and the way they are quite kind of fey, fragile creatures. They need, it's amazing they need this such protection from the horrific things that they've been doing. So yeah, they stops them from getting horrifically upset, and also stops them from going fully postal. So yeah, anything you want to add, Toxic?
Sounds bloody complicated. I think I would just be a Dark Elder personally, but it's not what we're talking about today. But
yeah, you're all War Mask.
What's wrong with war?
I personally have no problem with it, but that's just me. Anyway, yeah. So we're gonna start with my favorite aspect warriors, the Striking Scorpions. Striking Scorpions represent the aspect of Khaine as the patient hunter. They are stealth melee fighters. They, long story short, they perform quick, deadly strikes from nowhere and get the fuck out of Dodge before anyone knows they're even there. Striking Scorpions have heavier armor than most aspect warriors, They're armed with Eldar chainswords. Some warriors, including Exarchs, will occasionally be armed with the Scorpion's Claw, which is literally just a Scorpion Claw looking thing with, you know, a built-in shuriken pistol. And yeah, they best way to describe them is they symbolize the quick kill. Easiest way to describe them.
Yeah, the guys in the shadows waiting to strike.
Yeah, they're superior ambush troops too. In the Eldar books, which we'll talk about in the next episode of Black Vault, the striking scorpions, they're not aggressive and forward like the Dire Avengers and whatnot. They lay in wait, attack when the time is right, shred everything viciously, and then retreat back to the shadows. And then after striking scorpions, my second favorite aspect warrior, which I think these are popular with almost everyone, are the warp spiders. Oh, actually, hold on. I have to go back to striking scorpions. I forgot a really important part. Something really important about them. Each Eldar aspect warrior has a Phoenix Lord, which was a, you know, great powerful warrior at the, you know, right after the fall that was, you know, trained up to be this great leader of the each of, you know, their respective aspect. The striking scorpions actually have two, in that there was one and then there was another. The original aspect, the original Phoenix Lord of the striking scorpion aspect was Ara. Ara was corrupted by Slanesh during the fall and ended up corrupting the striking scorpion aspect with, you know, the Slanesh ways, you know, as opposed to, there was an influx of, you know, murder into the whole striking scorpion aspect. It is believed that Ara may in fact be the leader of the Incubi caste of Dark Eldar warriors, Drezar, because there's so many similarities between Incubi warriors and striking scorpions.
And even a little bit of swapping between in the books.
Yep. And later on, another is believed one of Ara's pupils had stepped up to take the place of his wayward master. Karandris is now the Phoenix Lord of the striking scorpion aspect, and
up there.
Does a much better job than Ara, because he's not such a douchebag.
There's a Phoenix Lords in the game as well to Drezar that kind of you know, makes it a bit more concrete whether it is that person, because there's a lot of points wise not having the invulnerable saves like Phoenix Lords don't, and just a few things like that. Just thought I'd point that out.
Awesome scenes. And I just wanted to make sure you didn't forget the old Mandy Blasters before we move on, Brett. Oh
yeah. Yeah, striking scorpions, aside from the shuriken pistol, the purring Eldar chainsword, and all that cool shit, they have Mandy Blasters, which are just these little, you know, shooty things on the sides of the helmets that, you know, they get in close, and as they're busy chopping you up, they can, you know, blast you down at the same time. Karandris, who we can see on the left here, his Mandy Blasters are fucking ridiculous. they can, you know, shred through, you know, Space Marine power armor and all kinds of cool shit. So
that's the cool thing about the Manda Blasters. Like, they are so much better than like your average las rifle, and they're just like tertiary weapons on your face. You've already got a chainsaw and a shotgun pistol. What more do you need?
If, you know, if in the event some dude ends up ripping your arms out, you can still run up to him and still blast him in the face with your face.
Good old face to face. But that's what the Scorpion's like. Sneak in the shadows and then face to face. Like the deadliest mutton chops known to man.
And then moving on to my second favorite, you know, Eldar Aspect Warrior, which, like I said, I believe they're fairly popular with, you know, to begin with, are Warp Spiders. Warp Spiders, a lot of races have their jump infantry. I think that Warp Spiders pretty much qualify as their jump infantry, like especially in like the video games and on the tabletop. Warp Spiders, it's difficult. There's not much. It's where every Aspect Warrior represents some aspect of Khaine. It's not quite so obvious what the Warp Spider represents. Their name is taken from the psychic creatures known as Warp Spiders that protect the infinity circuits of craft worlds. Warp Spiders carry warp jump generators that allow them to pretty much pop in and out of the warp over short distances. Where, you know, there's a Warp Spider, you know, 20 feet away, standing on top of a tank. He blinks out and reappears, you know, at your shoulder. They specialize in surprise ambush tactics, which, you know, appearing quite literally out of nowhere qualifies as a surprise ambush. Yeah. There is no known Phoenix Lord for the Warp Spiders. There is one, but either Games Workshop hasn't decided upon who he is, or he's just dead. Which is, from what I gather, is, you know, somewhat possible. But
yeah, I think she might be a she, but yeah, I think she's kind of unknown.
And Warp Spiders carry Death Spinners into combat, which, if my notes will load here. Fuck it. Yeah, Death Spinners. Death Spinners are really just, you know, balls out, powerful, shred through flesh and bone. They're similar to shuriken weaponry, but where a shuriken weapon fires, you know, a little blade, pretty much, the Death Spinners kind of like shoot a shuriken grid at you, which, you know, how do you deal with that?
Slice and dice.
Basically shooting a web at you.
Yeah, exactly. Shooting a web.
I think the appropriate response is to fall into many small pieces, really. And
exactly.
Because you only make it worse for yourself trying to struggle to get out, so that's a tricky one. Good old monofilament wire.
Yeah, monofilament wire.
Yeah, the part that doesn't really quite convert well to the game is that they don't really have an AP. It's just like a strength 6 weapon. So it's as far as I can tell. But yeah, it's
So how do you?
but definitely nice in the fluff.
So it isn't actually as deadly when being used in the game. You're saying Toxic, because it's not actually armor piercing.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, I was just having a look at it quickly then, and definitely a nice gun, high strength, but not quite as deadly, you know, as actually penetrating the armor.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Death Spinner, Strength 6, Assault 2, AP nothing.
AP nothing.
Yeah, that's yeah, so
but
it's
Strength 6,
it's
like,
very pretty though. That's
Isn't there also a tank that has that kind of weaponry on it as well?
I'm going to go a bit more into the other weapons a bit later, but pretty much everything the Eldar have, they have 10, like 5 to 10 versions of it, from smaller versions to bigger versions. Like whether it's on the platform, a grav tank, or a super heavy, they will just keep making them bigger.
You can hold
and bigger.
it one hand. There's the one hand, the two hand, the double overhand, the shoulder, the vehicle. The jet bike, the tank, the ship, the Titan, and the craft world.
they just love it.
It just gets bigger and bigger.
And every single one is a slight mockery of all the Imperiums as well, because they're that much better. I think it's only the Tower that really have technology to combat the Eldar.
Yeah, it's like,
equal
this is similar in idea to your last weaponry, but just so much better.
Yeah, we grew this crystal psychically, so it's better than you.
Yeah, what do you call a las gun with a flashlight? Twin linked.
Damn straight.
Anyway, yeah. Then another aspect warrior aspect that I like are the Swooping Hawks. Swooping Hawks they take their name from the hunting birds of Eldar mythology. They symbolize revenge and retribution. Swooping Hawks are air mobile infantry. They're I'm not sure how they work in the game, but in the fluff, as opposed to jumping and teleporting, in the fluff, they literally fly. Plenty of times in the Eldar books, you'll see the Swooping Hawks flying in a big circle above the enemy, dropping plasma grenades and hosing them down with las fire. And they're basically meant to be airborne infantry support. They just shoot the enemy from afar, from the sky. They're not really intended for hand-to-hand combat much. I'm not sure how it works in tabletop, but
yeah, on the tabletop they basically jump infantry. However, they do get to fly up into the air during a turn, and when that happens, they basically get removed from the game. And then later on, they come back down to the board, and you put a template down where they're landing. And it's basically them flying down, throwing grenades and stuff. So it works pretty well with the fluff.
So is that like with anything that flies just has to bugger off after its turn, pretty much?
Yeah, well, these rules are up before the flyer rules, but I think they get to pick if they leave the board. Okay. So it's a little bit different to actually flyers, but they definitely have. The rules are definitely kind of there to meet the fluff, where they can fly and not just jump around.
I think that is the beautiful thing about them, the fact that they are full-on flight packs and those lovely winged things that they've got going on there. Especially when you compare them to their counterparts from the Dark Eldar in the picture on the left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Scourges of the Dark Eldar work pretty much the same way. Oh, Scourges are like a billion times cooler.
But they're not as pretty and graceful.
No, they're not as pretty and graceful. Where the Swooping Hawks are hawks, the Scourges are like vultures and vampire bats, pretty much.
Nice. I've put a picture up of the Phoenix Lord there and an Exarch. I like the picture on the left. Almost looks like some kind of Magic the Gathering card art, like one of the like Asphyxian Angels or something. Do you? Is there anything you want to add about the Phoenix Lord or the Swooping Hawks, Brett?
Oh yeah, Swooping Hawk, Phoenix Lord. God, I'm all screwed up today. Swooping Hawk, Phoenix Lord is Baharoth. He said to be basically the finest of the Phoenix Lords. He participated in many raids into Chaos spaces. He lost much of his family in craft worlds, the craft world of Anayan to Chaos. So, not that all Eldar weren't already, real haters on Chaos. Seems he in particular hates on Chaos.
They do like having an armies of everyone that definitely despises everything. This one just hates them that little bit more.
Pretty much.
He looks even more badass than he's a lot more striking than some of the other Exarchs, and so different to the rest of his troops, which is quite cool. So yeah, is there anything you wanted to add about Swooping Hawks, or should we?
I think you can keep us going with the Dark Reapers.
Okie dokie. Just give me a moment to get the pitch up to get rid of the warp spiders there. So the Dark Reapers. These are the most sinister of the aspect warriors. Dark Reapers emulate Khaine in his aspect as the destroyer, much like Shiva, and specialise in the use of destructive long-range weaponry. They follow in the teachings of Mogan Raw, who's that the mightiest of weapons can be used with scalpel precision. These are the guys in midnight blue and black, with white helms and interlocking plates that are even better than the Striking Scorpions, probably the greatest armoured of all the aspect warriors, with special stabilisers and clamps and interlocking plates, which enable them to actually root themselves to the floor and allow them to launch their salvos from afar at the enemy. The grim white-faced helm actually has range-finding equipment in it itself, because everything is made of wraith bone, as everything is with the Eldar. They actually merge with the weapon itself, and they can look from its muzzle, which is kind of interesting. They don't look down the barrel, they can actually see from the end of the rocket, which is pretty awesome. And I think if I was going to be an aspect warrior, these would be my guys, because it's just ultimate devastation, and you don't have to run about and be sneaky, which appeals to me. So, and let's have a look. There's a Dark Reaper Exarch there, looking particularly badass. And here is the man, the myth, Mogan Raw, wearing his lovely macabre armour, which is actually built from his the ruins of his founded temple, which is kind of interesting. Because he is the Phoenix Lord of the doomed craft world Altenzar. So he wears the ruins of his former temple and wears the Morgatar, which is an ancient Distortion Cannon, and he's believed to be a genius for what he's done. He did go into the Eye of Terror and retrieved his craft world. He joined them with his Morgatar, which is a weapon with an executioner added on the end. So this is a weapon that can split someone in half. I thought that'd be a good idea to add it on the end of a big Distortion Cannon, which would be fun. But yeah, he was lost as his craft world was sucked into the Eye of Terror, and then went and helped liberate them and escape them. And as we mentioned last week, things aren't still very happy for Altenzar, because how does one survive for 10,000 years in the warp and not come back and be a little bit suspicious? So that is the Dark Reapers. Now we've kind of covered most of or pretty much all the aspects that we're going to cover so far. So I just wanted, is there anything you guys want to talk about? What kind of aspects you kind of would be? Anything that really sticks to you about the?
Something I want to say about the where the Dark Reaper aspect came from. At some point, Khaine was in battle with the Nightbringer before the Nightbringer went into his, millennia-long slumber. And in the battle, Khaine won. However, the Nightbringer's necrodermis was shattered, and shards of its necrodermis became embedded in Khaine's iron flesh. And from there, it tainted Khaine with the aspect of the Destroyer, the indiscriminate wrecker of shit. And from there, the Eldar have the Dark Reaper aspect warrior, as well as having the as well as pretty much all life associating death with the image of this cloaked figure with a great big scythe.
That's one of my favourite things about Warhammer. I just love how that comes in. Yeah, we all have the idea of death because shards of the Nightbringer are in our face. Which is kind of crazy. And they themselves are the Dark Reapers themselves. Oh, apparently, according to the new Necron Codex, that's not the same.
I haven't read the new Necron Codex yet.
So,
I keep getting shot-collared by somebody whenever I try to do Necrons, so...
We're going by Fluff that has existed at some point, in some time. Well, with the big Eldar coming out, there's going to be a big Fluff change anyway, and it looks like maybe even the Dark Reapers are going to have a big Fluff change, so I'm sure we'll have some more up-to-date stuff as we go along with those. But so yeah, Toxic, Aspect Warrior, what are you going to be?
Have we talked about Fire Dragons and then Howling Banshees yet? Or?
Yeah. No, we just picked a few of them just because there's so much to cover. But if you want to go into them a little bit, you're more than welcome.
Not really. I just,
but you can still choose them if that would be your aspect.
Well, because I would pick the Reapers, but I like getting a bit more closer, so I think I'd go Fire Dragons. You know, just get my fusion gun and go tank hunting.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd definitely either be a Striking Scorpion or a Warp Spider.
The Warp Spiders are cool. I would like the shifty, jumpy stuff is very cool.
That's really pretty much what it comes down to. Is my versatility in battle is just the versatility of a whatchamacallit. I just said a Warp Spider. The versatility of having the whole, warp, jump, backpack thingamabibbly is just, good. I can, pop in and out, stick a Space Marine right in the power pack, decapitate an Imperial General and pop out before anyone can stop me.
Yeah, I've got to say, as God Nothing said, he's a Swooping Hawk. Swooping Hawks would definitely be up there for me, but I just think a flight pack's good, but I don't know if it's going to take my weight. I'm probably safer riding a plague drone or something. So yeah, that's the aspects. Yeah, there are other aspects. I'm sure we'll talk about the rest of the aspects another time. I'm going to slightly mention the Shining Spears in a bit, but I will move us on to the Wraith Guard. If you just give me a moment. And there they are, the wonderful things. Now, the Wraith Guard are the guys on the right, coming out of the water. Water? I don't know why I said it like that.
The water?
The water. The water on the craft world don't taste like a water. So yeah, the Wraith Guard are Wraithbone constructs. Effectively, they're Wraithbone terracotta army, in a kind of way. They're kept in the bowels of a craft world, and when the proverbial hits the fan, they take Spirit Seer will go along and take the spirits of the dead out of the Infinity Circuit, warp them back into a Waystone, and plunk that into one of the recesses in the Wraithguard's body, and hopefully a Spirit Seer or a Farseer will be leading them into battle. They do suffer from Wraith Sight if they're not being kind of psychically told what to do all the time, which makes them particularly slow and can make them even kind of seize up and stop. But they are armed with a Wraith Cannon, which I will talk a bit more about these weapons a bit later because I'm not happy. But the Wraith Cannon literally takes the life energy from the Waystone and blasts holes in the material realm, sucking enemies and everything into it. So that's this is the troop form of the Wraith Guard. May have that. Next to him, you have got the Wraith Lord. And these are the slightly larger versions, the cousins of the Wraith Guard, but they're quite a bit bigger and fitted with all manner of close combat and ranged weaponry. Pretty much with everything with the Eldar, you can put anything you want on it up to a certain point. There's all the Falcons have all their own, and all the other things. You can either have the plasma shots, there's the distortion cannons, the all manner of different lasers that they have. But these are piloted by a single spirit of dead Eldar hero, and as we see in the Path of the Seer book, there's an Exarch who happens to be chilling in the Infinity Circuit rather than being part of the armor, and an Exarch at present because his shrine has actually been taken down. Yeah, so it's the heroes guide these big chaps into war. And same with the Wraith Guard, they have the difficulty of Wraith Sight and need to be kind of psychically led, but they are that much bigger and that much hardier than the others. Now, I put some more. Right. Here we go. Now it gets quite exciting. The Wraith Seer is the chap in white, and these are awesome. I really like the Wraith Seer. They're similar to the Wraith Lords, but instead they contain the spirit of a warlock and function much as the warlock did in life, battling with a variety of heavy Eldar weapons, Wraith Spear, Wraith Shield, and their potent psychic powers. These psychic powers, these psychic walkers lead the other Wraith constructs into battle and can act as a spirit seer for them, so that's kind of awesome. But they are really quite particularly rare. But oh yeah, they're very, very rare because there's not that many of them left on the craft boards at all, and it's believed the spirit seers have actually forgotten how to create them. So as they slowly get destroyed, there's only a certain number of those chaps about. Now, even more interesting than them possibly are the guys on the other side. There's a Bright Lance and a Towering. Can't remember what that one's called, but they're Eldar Knights, which effectively are the Wraith Guard / Wraith Lords kind of / Titans of the Exarch worlds. In a very similar way to the Infinity Circuit and Waystones, one of the seers on the Exarch world will take a spirit or a bunch of spirits from the world spirit and plunk it into these Wraithbone contraptions, and they fight in the very same way as the Eldar Wraith Guard, but they just come in ridiculous shapes and sizes. There's the Bright Lance there with he's got 4 legs and a lance and no arms. And then there's the guy with 4 arms, 1 arm and then 3 weird weapon arms going on. So yeah, it's a Wraith Guard Titan for the Exarchs. And the kind of thing that I like about the Bright Lance that they use is it's originally used by the Exarchs when they're taming the crazy dinosaurs and dragons and things that live on their worlds. It's a mind control ray that kind of chills out and calms anything in the vicinity, but when it comes to using them in battle, it basically just mushes the brain of anything within its field of attack, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, that kind of sums up the Wraith chaps. Do you anyone have an experience with Wraith chaps in battle, or things they want to say about the Wraith Guard?
My 2 favorite tactics for Dawn of War 2 is using the Wraith Guard as A, objective deniers, and B, just marching them forward as this great big ball of death. And also is the Wraith Lord rush. I just fill up my population cap with Wraith Lords, give them, whichever weapon is most appropriate, and let them go fuck shit up. It's honestly almost as effective as just sending a fuck ton of dreadnoughts after your enemy in the old Dawn of War games, back when you could give them 2 last cannons, and it was just
Because that's effectively what the Wraith Guard are, is that because the Eldar don't have dreadnoughts. They don't have partially alive. They either have fully alive fighters or fully dead fighters that are still ready to battle. How about you on the tabletop, Toxic? Any experience with these Wraithbone chappies?
The Wraith Guard, they're my favorite unit codex. I love that you can make them troop. One of my favorite units would be having like 10 of those guys, put a Farseer in there, have some allied Dark Eldar, have a Archon with 2-up invulnerable save at the front of them, so he's tanking all the shots with a 2-up invulnerable save, and the Farseer will be letting him reroll that. So you basically need to get double 1s to do a wound on that squad, and then you have your Wraith Guard with their crazy guns just shooting up a storm as you walk down the table. The Wraith Lords themselves, not a big fan of them in an Eldar army. I just find they die a little bit too quickly. I mean, they're good, they're pretty tough, but they're a little slow for an Eldar army. I managed to take them out with just Tyranid gaunts with poison attacks, so that'd be... It's the last couple of games where I've actually versed them. They've all gone down, turn 2, turn 3 to gaunts. When I've actually played with them, they've done a little bit, but they've been a little bit too slow to keep up with the rest of my army, and they just kind of walk around. But yeah, Wraith Guards, love them. Favorite unit of the Codex.
They are some pretty chaps, and just the knights are just weird. I just think the knights are crazy, and it looks like the knight's going to be the new huge uber riptide type thing that's going to be coming out as well. So that's kind of exciting to see what they're going to do with these knights. I'm definitely excited to see them, and I think they're probably going to tempt me towards the Eldar more than anything else has. Although I'm hoping to talk myself out with the distortion stuff in a moment. So, anything else on the Wraithguard, Brett, or shall I move on to technology?
You can move right on to technology.
Oakley dokley. So, the kind of cornerstone of all the things the Eldar do in many ways is the webway, which are the ancient tunnels through the warp, which means the Eldar can literally retaliate and reinforce with unthinkable speed and accuracy. And this, combined with the mobile webways of the Storm Serpent, which I'll talk about a little bit more, means that the enemies of the Eldar can never really tell how many they're going to be facing, or the disposition of them, because they could just roll out a couple of tanks or something and just appear, and that's kind of the really scary thing about them. You think, oh look, there's 1 or 2 Eldar, let's have them. Oh no, there's just loads, like ants, like pretty white ants in many ways. The other big thing that is kind of a major foundation of all the Eldar technology is Wraithbone, which is the psychotechnic material called forth from the warp by Eldar Bonesingers, and it makes the basis of just about everything that the Eldar own, including the craft worlds, weapons, vehicles, ships, and the Wraith Guard and Wraith Lords themselves, and even all that tanks and everything else. It has psychic properties in the material that allows the mental operation of all Eldar weapons, vehicles, and technology. So the thing, and I really want to throw this about because, I've been trying to research it and find more about it, and there's not that much on it. This is something which is somewhat sentient, being called forth from the warp into the material realm. I just can't seem to see how it can't be dodgy. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Most things that pop out from the warp aren't to play with, or to live in, or to do everything with. What do you think, Brett?
Well, me, I'm more chaotic of I lean more towards chaos than anything else, so I say gung-ho on the fucking warp weaponry, but I absolutely understand what you're saying. This craft world is everything they have, and let's just open up this little warp rift right here in the fucking middle of everything, and hope nothing goes horribly wrong. Just hope that, a troop of bloodletters don't just fall out the hole and decide to just, chop up everything in sight.
Oh, and just to react to what God Nothing's saying, I appreciate that the Wraithbone itself isn't fully sentient and have its own spirit. There are spirits kind of from the Infinity Circle craft world coming within it, but just the fact that it's appearing from nowhere seems a little bit. As Ian's just said, what's the worst could happen? I don't know, the craft world could just grow teeth and eat you. That'd be interesting. Mm-hmm. Oh dear, Altiok's been eaten by Biltan. Oh dear. But how about you, Toxic? If you were living in something that had been called forth from the warp, how would you feel?
I mean, you gotta hope that the people that figured all this out were smart enough to kind of understand and make sure it's safe. But what else do you have if you don't use that technology? That's. I mean, it's the risk and reward type thing,
The Exarchs do okay.
Well, do they? Where? That's because they stick to themselves. The Eldar like to poke their noses where they don't belong. You gotta have the technology to back that up.
Monkey does not appreciate having his affairs meddled with, apparently. So, back to the technology and things. The other thing that they have, which kind of gives them a major edge, it's something that the Imperium do have to a certain degree, but it's the anti-gravitic engines, the same kind of things you find in a land speeder, but the kind of the power, the efficiency, and the control that they have is just unbelievable. The speeds that they can reach, and the grace and maneuverability they can even kind of like. They've even got this stuff on the super heavy tanks and things, so yeah, they can maneuver far better than anything really that size should. And it really is this that gives them their kind of characteristic speed and deadly grace in many ways, and it even forms the basis of their weaponry, which is kind of crazy. Inside the Shuriken weapons you will find it, but I will get into the weaponry in just a moment. The other thing that they have, which is kind of very important for them when they're sticking their noses in, is the holo fields, which are a programmable hologram field which actually renders the individual vehicle or spacecraft relatively invisible, and when moving it's extremely difficult to detect accurately and hit. So basically, it's active camo available for pretty much everything, because that's as the Eldar like to do. There is an option to put something on anything, like from a Phantom Titan to the Harlequins holo suits and the Rangers holo camo stuff they have. So yeah, that's the holo fields, and we shall move on to weapons. So the Eldar have a variety of weapons, many of which are similar in origin, shape, and used to those by the Imperium, as we discussed with the chainsaws earlier, but most of them are more refined and more powerful. Where there are huge, raucous chainsaws in the hands of many 40k, the Eldar have much sleeker pairing counterparts, and again, the lasers and plasma weapons that are ineffectual and dangerous in many hands, the Eldar have almost infinite varieties in scale, power, radius, and but are well crafted and employed with almost precision and safety. But they also have a number of things that are kind of unique to them, which primarily is the signature weapon, the Shuriken. It's the most common Eldar range weapon, but more of a kind of close combat weapon as well. They start as a small Shuriken pistol and go to as large as a super heavy Shuriken cannon on a tank. They all operate around the gravitic accelerator, which is the same thing used in the jet bikes and the grav tanks and things. And also a solid core of plastic crystal, which is shaved into thin strips by an energy pulse and then launched out by another energy pulse at ridiculous speeds. These thin strips are the Shuriken and can be made in various shapes and sizes by the design of the weapons, and they cause deadly lacerations and cleave through flesh and most armour, but have a limited range and accuracy. But something we'll talk about on the Hammer on Saturday, it looks like they could be changing how the Shurikens work in a little bit, or how they actually play on the battlefield, so that'd be interesting. The other things that the Eldar have are lasers. I know everyone has lasers, but with their psychically grown crystals, and they can focus light into very deadly weapons. Superior to the Imperial laser, Eldar like the elegance of laser weapons and pride themselves in the mastery of light itself. Which, if that isn't hubris and ridiculous amounts of being up your own arse, I don't know what is. That we have mastered light. But if you've got a fire prism launched at a couple of Imperial Guard, you may feel that way. But yeah, these lasers kind of range from the Mandy blasters and personal lasers to large scatter and pulse lasers for vehicles and support, pulsars for war machines and weapon batteries, and lances on starships. And essentially, it's just greater energy, more lenses, and more crystals. And that's how you get bigger lasers. So maybe the Mechanicus could look into getting some better crystals. The other thing we touched on a little bit earlier was the monofilament wire, which kind of reminds me of there's one of the dudes from Helsing has awesome monofilament wire from his fingers, but webs of monocle thin wire that cut through the armour and bone with ease, although not quite so easy as we've said without the armour piercingness. And finally, when it comes to weapons, and this is what I really want to get everyone in on, it's there on the top left, I do believe, the Distortion Cannon.
Top right.
Top right, sorry, it was top right, it's gone now, there we go, it's back. I need to compose myself for this. Distortion Cannon, yeah. This is something that opens rents into the immaterium through which enemies and weapons are instantly consumed and crushed before the holes close. The Wraith Cannon, powered by the Spirit Stone, is what the Wraith Guard have, and there's many different forms, many different sizes. Distortion is kind of particular to the Eldar. There are the Vortex weapons and things that the Imperium have, and the Dark Eldar and Chaos have them too, but in the form of Distortion I believe it's the Eldar that have the monopoly on that. And it's just not okay. It's just not okay. You're opening holes into the warp, sucking people's souls through. Come on, guys, like, back me up on this. The Eldar are beautiful, wonderful people, but, like, all's fair in love and warp, I believe you said, Toxic. Like, it's a great weapon, but, like, you can't... You know what happened during the fall. You know She Who Thirsts is after you guys. Like, you may be fighting someone, you may want to shoot them in the face, but knowing full well that you're sucking them into oblivion for eternity. Can you justify that, Brett? Could you justify that?
Considering how many people I want to just boot into a warp rift, I could, but looking at this objectively, like a non-homicidal maniac, yeah, there's really, I mean, in terms of, like, your choices are let the craft world be destroyed, or use this here gross weaponry. I can understand where they're coming from, although I wouldn't want to be the guy pulling the trigger.
Yeah, but then using it on the craft world, that's just insane. What if something goes wrong? Like, every time you open a rift, you can't be guaranteed that nothing's going to pop out. Toxic, how do you feel? I know you are literally all War Mask, so I'm sure you're loving the idea of sending your enemies.
You gotta do the best with your technology that's available to you. What are you gonna do? Build a bigger shuriken cannon to throw frisbees at your opponent? Like, you said it yourself. It's a short range weapon because, like, it's basically just a little disc. Eventually, the wind's gonna pick it up and it's gone. So, you. But I mean, maybe they can just stick with their lasers. I mean, I can agree with what you're saying. Like, why would you risk that on your craft world? But anywhere else, go for it.
Yeah. Well,
if you're on someone else's planet, who cares?
But it kind of reminds me. There's one scene in All Quiet on the Western Front where there's two guys in a trench and they're fighting and they're on opposite sides and he kills him. And then he looks in his jacket and finds pictures of his kids and stuff. It's like, when you're fighting a war, like, you're not trying to destroy everyone. Like, you're trying to decimate the enemy and win. You don't want to kind of have their souls raped for eternity. And I understand the Dark Eldar and Chaos. Like, they're kind of all up for soul raping, and that's kind of fine. But yeah. The Imperium kind of do it as well, which is kind of crazy, because that's just playing with fire. Do you want us to say about that rocket? Because that rocket blew my mind.
Yeah, the Death Strike Vortex missile, where it's basically a nuke on steroids, where it'll land, open up a rift in the warp, and suck everything through, and then linger around the battlefield, just every turn, moving around, sucking more stuff through the warp. I've used it a few times myself, and you can, on a good roll, you can take a Titan out of the game. Just suck it right through the warp.
Right, I'm gonna have you sanctioned. I'm gonna get hold of NATO and see if we can.
No, you won't find my mass weapons. Weapons of mass destruction here.
So that's probably yeah. It's my personal gripe, but yeah, I think everyone else seems to think it's justified, so it's just me. So we shall.
It's the it's 40k universe. You can't think of morality.
Yeah, in the unforgiving, grimdark 40k universe, you can't really think about. Yeah, morality is not a very big concern.
If you don't do it to someone, they're gonna do it straight back at you. So
this is true, but it's very easy to forget when you're reading about the craft world and stuff. Like the general lifestyle of the Eldar isn't that grimdark. In a way, but then again, in the War Mask is kind of crazy. You think like they can do horrific things and then just forget about it. That's kind of, maybe you should deal with your issues a bit more. but does anyone want to say anything about the weapons or technology before we get onto the vehicles?
No, I think I said my piece on those shuriken guns.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think you said enough about the shuriken guns. I don't know why I'm so defensive of the Eldar. I'm angry with them for their warp technology. Okay, well, I shall move us on to...
Are you going to protest in front of their craft worlds? And...
Just flying by with some Corsairs going, no!
Flying by with this big banner hung out behind your ship.
Yeah, stop using warp technologies.
Stop using warp weapons.
Amnesty 40k. It could be an idea.
You're not going to last long in the 40k universe.
I'm a human. I've got no chance.
We'd all last like 10 minutes.
This is very true. Right, on to the vehicles. Now, obviously, the most used and most sort of characteristic vehicle of the Eldar is the old jet bike with the anti-grav motors and psychic links in the vehicles, with photoreceptive receptors in the handlebars and gauntlets that allow the Eldar to mentally control them as they mentally control everything they do, which is kind of awesome. But jet bikes are so quick and dangerous that it even takes an Eldar years to learn to control the jet bikes. But those who do build up a close bond with their mounts, like the horse masters of old legend. So they're kind of like the white scars of the Eldar, although surely that's blasphemy in many ways. So yeah, they're most often used by the Guardians, and Sam Hain Wild Riders love them more than anyone else. But sometimes they're used by Harlequins, and the only aspect to use them are the Shining Spear. Oh, no, that's not a Shining Spear. What? Shining Spears. I do apologise for the technical difficulties there. It's a very, very pretty Shining Spears, if I do say so. They're loving the faces on those. So yeah, the Shining Spears are the only aspect that use the jet bikes. They're one of the rarest aspects. They have no Phoenix Lord, and they rock about in white and blue using laser lances, and they are the form of the Spear of Khaine in many ways. And they are kind of the rarest kind of draconian knights in many ways of the Eldar. So that's kind of cool. And then we move on to technically I
love that picture with the orc. It's like, I've got this spear. I'm so close to you, but instead of just stabbing you, I'm going to shoot you first.
But I think that's the kind of crazy thing about their lances. It's just like they don't really need to be lances, other than the fact that they've got like a crazy ass barrel. So they
can work as lancers, but they can also work for stabbing.
Yeah,
just whatever they feel like doing that day.
But look how close he is.
The barrel is kind of level with that orc's hand, I think. Or maybe he could not have fired it, just slapped him about the face with the tip. That could be interesting. Just the tip. So yeah, jet bikes. Anyone want to say anything about jet bikes while we're on jet bikes? For jet bikes? No.
Jet bikes are awesome. Like they're my second favorite unit in Eldar, and if I went Eldar, I would be tempted to have an all jet bike army. Because that's just how amazing they are.
They are pretty cool. I've not really sort of seen them in action, but the way they're described in the books, just damn serious.
They're insanely fast. Probably the fastest unit in 40k at the moment, as far as I can think of. Especially the fastest troop choice.
Oh, and just to answer God Nothing, we haven't mentioned the Eagle pilots, the Crystal Dragon, the Slicing Orbs of Xandros, and the Shadow Spectres. We just picked a few of the aspects, and I'm sure we will get back to some other aspects in a bit more detail another day. So onwards with the vehicles and the pictureness. Right. I don't know why they made this bit so small. Right. Here we are. Now we have the Falcon Grev tank. And there's a fire prism there, I also do believe. The Falcon is named after the consort of the Great Hawk from the War in Heaven, who got the sword from Val for Aldenesh to enable him to continue fighting. They're the standard armoured tank with space to retrieve beleaguered warriors. They have pulse lasers as well as pretty much any assortment of Eldar weapons. This is the basic model for all Grav tanks, in the same way as the kind of Rhino chassis for the Imperium. So yeah, they come in many different flavours. There's the fire prism, as you can see up there, which I love the coruscating laser on that model. It looks awesome. The fire prism, which has the prism cannon. There's the firestorm, which is the anti-air. There's the night spinner, which fires the monofilament chains of Vol. The wave serpent, which is the standard APC with more space, and the warp hunter with a distortion cannon. As we all know, I love them. Anyone want to jump in on the Falcons, or as I start to sort of move to the larger tanks?
I think you can do your thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do your thing, honey.
Eldar tanks are pretty difficult to deal with just on the tabletop. You know, with all their hollow fields and fancy upgrades, they can really be tough to take down when you're taking them on like head on. It's just it's been many times my Imperial Guard have struggled at taking down these tanks flying at them until it's too late, and then you get a Warlock jumping out, putting a flame template down on your guys. So,
but that's the thing with these gravitic motors, they're whizzing all over the place, and hollow fields you can't even see them, which is kind of crazy.
mm-hmm.
So moving on from those, we have a Wave Serpent and a Cobra. So yeah, these are the super heavy tanks. The Eldar super heavies are pretty much entirely just larger versions of the previous mentioned Falcon based siblings, with the exception of the Storm Serpent, which is the lovely one here in blue and yellow, with the lovely stars on it, which has a Wraithgate engine, making it a mobile webway spitter, which means it can just literally disgorge troops and tanks into its enemy, which is kind of serious. Although I'm sure you could stick a few guns in it as well to keep it useful. But yeah, super there's weapon platforms. You got your Falcon Grev tanks. You got your super heavies. They're just a flavour of a flavour of a flavour. Eldar just whop it out, which is kind of impressive. Anyone want to talk about the super heavies any more than they are just being kind of the large versions of the Falcons?
Yeah, I'm good too.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely exactly sure how it works, but I think like it must be a similar kind of way to the way the distortion works, rather than coding just a rip in the warp, it spews out a gate, which is kind of insane. So on to walkers. So we have the War Walkers, which are a 3-meter tall bipedal support system for a single pilot. That's the first step on the road to becoming a Titan pilot, and again, with everything, they have the various ranged weaponry. They're mostly only used in Craftworld, but some Corsairs do have the Wasp Assault Walker, which is the dropped as an assault vehicle and uses its anti-grav engines again to leap across the battlefield. So like, they kind of remind me of the Tau battle suits with the jump packs. They're kind of, but for Corsairs. It's nice to see the Corsairs. Like, how do the Corsairs get this stuff? Like, do they nick it when they leave the craft worlds? Like, or do they like making deals with the craft worlds? Because it's kind of an interesting prospect. Because they have the flyers as well. I just wondered how they get them off the craft worlds. Anyone have any ideas?
They open a rift in the wall and take it through that.
Right, that's enough of you, Toxic. No more holes in reality for you. Right, we shall. So yeah, moving on from walkers, we have even bigger and more exciting are the Titans. Dun dun dun. So here we have a Phantom Titan, the largest of the Eldar constructs and the pinnacle of their warpcraft. Created on a Wraithbone core and fitted with multiple waystones filled with the spirits of the dead, which move freely about them, about the construct, giving the thing its own consciousness, which then again merges with the crew to help them. And the crew is normally either a single pilot, twins, or triplets. So if it's either can have one pilot or three, if you're triplets and you're kind of squashed into that head, that might be interesting. But I presume Eldar siblings being psychic, that'd be crazy. Eldar twins and triplets would be on some serious levels of communication. But yeah, so just getting distracted by Eldar triplets. Much more
fantasy.
Well, no, I'll be honest. No, the one thing the Eldar aren't that sexy. They're a bit too thin and kind of modelly for me. I like a little bit more meat of my Xeno. It's a shame there aren't any orc girls.
starting to sound a little bit more like an episode of The Hammer.
It is going that way. So anyway, right, back to serious. They are powered. Yes, as God of Nothing says, they're kind of powered in a Power Ranger style bridge. They are the Eldar Zoids in many ways. But they're much more swift and graceful than any of the Titans, and they're fitted with the most devastating forms of Eldar weaponry, as well as huge hollow fields projected from the spines on their backs and shoulders there. Phantom Titans are only ever used in huge, all-out battles that threaten the craft world itself, and only then is the webway made large enough for them. So that's how large they are. The webway isn't actually fitted to kind of deal with these monstrosities coming through them. But I kind of think even more cool and sexy than the Phantom is the one with the black red arm on the right there. Is the Warlock Battle Titan. These are a very rare psycho form of the Phantom, which has the waystones and spirits of dead Eldar psychers held within it, and a huge, deadly psychic warrior, able to glimpse the future and affect the threads of fate, even changing the course of munitions as they fly. Kind of like a Warseer or Warlock in a huge way. Just to give you a kind of idea of how powerful these chaps are, there is so much psychic energy crackling within them that it can instantly kill a greater demon in close combat. Like, that's a spicy meatball. if ever there was one. They have a huge psychic lance, which is similar to the knight's weapon. So they're not only are they electrocuting greater demons, they're mushing the brains of everyone around them. As well as missile launchers, Titan pulsar lasers, or a power fist. Yeah. And again, they've got a hollow field. So it's this huge psychic death machine that's towering over the battlefield, and you can't see it. But you know it's there because your brain's turned to jelly, which is interesting. And on the other side, the slightly smaller, quicker ones, we have the Revenant Titans. The smallest scout titans of the Eldar force. They are particularly fast and agile, and able to leap and fire. They have pulsars and Revenant missile launchers, which is a huge missile launcher with plasma warheads, as well as particularly epic holofields. And they are often paired and piloted by siblings, which are given single, double-named definitions. So those two chaps could be the Eagles born of a flame, or the Guardians of the Gates of Eternity. And yeah, you just scout about and run about and jump, shooting everything in your not quite so tiny but not quite so huge Revenant Titan. How do people feel about the Eldar Titans? Because they are some serious stuff. I must admit, I nearly brought a tear to my eye when it fell on Altioch.
Yeah, Eldar Titans are cool, I guess.
A little bit more heart. You don't seem you're not feeling them quite that much.
I don't know. When it comes to Titans, I don't know. I'm more of a Imperial kind of guy. That, and I think the Tyranid Biotitan is the scariest thing ever, just because it's alive. It was, birthed, and it's that fucking huge.
Well, as you mentioned, the Tyranids, actually, there's a little tidbit that I learned from you and Lex Carnum yesterday. I thought was quite as interesting. So the zoanthrope of the Tyranids is actually a product of the Eldar. Well, a byproduct of munching down on lots of Eldar brains.
Yeah, it's theorized that it's pretty much it was Tyranid warriors eating Eldar, and from there, kin zoanthrope. Yeah, I don't even want to think about that shit.
Yeah, where were their distortion weapons then?
Right? Well, where were your distortion weapons then?
It makes sense that an Eldar would turn a close combating brute into this just a big brain floating around. So
and I didn't realise, but thank you for God Nothing pointing out, Biovores apparently are from the Chomping of Orcs, and the Gene Stealers are from the Chomping of Space Marines. Space Marines. But
I've also read that Tyrant Guard came from the Chomping of Space Marines. I think Gene Stealers are more from the I think Gene Stealers are really their own thing because they steal the genes, quote unquote. Because, what do you call them there? The Tyrant Guard. To even say this out loud is considered heresy, but they found that Tyrant Guard have a membrane similar to the Black Carapace of Space Marines. I mean, which when you look at a Tyrant Guard and someone says, hey, these might have come from Space Marines, you look at it and it makes sense, because, it's big, it's powerful, and that's basically what Space Marines are meant to be.
This is true. Although you're now excommunicated and ready to be exterminatist because you gave that information. So thanks for that.
Yeah, I was a heretic. I was a heretic already, so it's whatever.
We're supposed to keep it quiet from the Space Wolves. They don't like heretics. But Walkers and Titans, Toxic, any experience with those guys?
I have no experience with any Titans, but I would love to take on an Eldar Titan. I love Titans, super heavy tanks. I love versing them. I love, playing them. They're great. Like, what's a better challenge than taking on a Titan? Walkers, fairly familiar with the Wall Walkers for Eldar, and they're pretty serious business with the scatter lasers. They can dish out, enough shots to wipe out, a tank a turn, basically just glancing things to death.
Wow.
So that, yeah, I think on like 8 shots or 6 shots, Wall Walker, so you get a squad of 3. I mean, you can even outflank with them. So I've had a lot of times where my Imperial Guard tank line has had a squad of them outflank behind them, take down a tank or 2 before I can bring enough fire onto them. So they're really deadly. They don't, they look kind of sleek and, kind of fragile. But they are fragile, but they're very deadly as well.
All the Eldar are fragile and deadly. I think that's that's their vibe, isn't it? Fey, but fatal. Fatal. Feytal. I just made a new word. Oh, I'm the only one laughing at my own joke. On to flyers. Flyers, yes. So
I don't know if I want to talk about Eldar flyers.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have any phallic-shaped flyers for this one. But yeah, so the flyers, and like, to me, in many ways, before I start naming them and talking about them, they remind me of the Bat Fam, the DC Comics Batman family, because you've got Nightwing, who's the yellow and blue guy at the top there. He's the primary flyer, energy fields, protection, and decent firepower, far quicker and more maneuverable than the usual Imperial flyers. Great interceptor and dogfighter. It's been said that Imperial flyers can suffer up to 75 losses within a couple of days of entering into a mid-air battle with these chaps. They have twin-link Shuriken cannons and Bright Lance, which is an Uber Laskazan, and they've been clocked at doing 3,600 kph with their wings folded, which is kind of insane. And young pilots yet to walk the aspect paths, who have kind of come from the weapons platforms and things, normally take up the flyers, and their kind of hotshot antics normally lead to them end up being outcasts, because they prefer to have the wind beneath their wings. Next we have the Phoenix, which is a ground fighter. It works in tandem with the Nightwing, and has plasma bombers and some monofilament bombs as well as pulse lasers. So yeah, so the Nightwing, surprisingly enough, is Nightwing, Dick Grayson in my opinion. The Phoenix is kind of the Jason Todd Robin, and then the Void Phoenix, which is the beautifully painted dark blue one beneath the beautifully painted angelic one, is the Corsair Warband version of the Phoenix, used by Corsairs and Dark Eldar. It swaps the pulse lasers for twin glint star cannons, which are the Eldar plasma weapons. So yeah, as it's for the Corsairs, and they are kind of mercenaries, so they do fight for the Dark Eldar as well. I imagine that's Red Hood. Moving on to the Vampire Raider, which is the largest flyer, it's the largest flyer transport, very much like the Thunderhawk for the Eldar, with lasers, pulsars, and missiles. But it also has a Titan class holofield, so you're not going to find it. As well as it having grav hooks underneath to drop a Falcon or Wave Serpent into the action, which is kind of cool. Then finally, the huge behemoth in the bottom corner there, the blue and black, is the Vampire Hunter, a super heavy version of the Vampire Raider with more weapons and no space for anyone other than the crew. And it has bigger lasers, pulsars, missiles, and they, again, like some of the other stuff, they are particularly rare and only used in the biggest engagements. Now, there's a variety of these chaps, and I haven't got pictures of them all there, but the Eldar are kind of nimble and sweet in the air. Anyone have experience of Eldar flyers or opinions about Eldar flyers other than they shouldn't look like penises?
Yeah, they shouldn't look like penises. Other than that, that's about it. I mean, we don't have one yet in the regular codex, apart from the
they're all Forge World.
Forge World. Yeah. So I've never seen one in person or on the tabletop. So I've only dealt with the Dark Elder flyers, and if it's anything like that, I look forward to seeing them because
just as long as they're not phallic shaped, or like the one we had last week would just look like a US jet, which was unnecessary.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when they come out so I can make fun of it a little bit more. But
I just need we should club together and buy Savage one so we can paint it as a penis, right? But I'm serious, Brett. How do you feel about flying with the Eldar?
I mean, their air units are kind of meh. They all look like penises, and they're just not exciting. I mean, I'm not excited by them.
I don't know. A couple of weeks ago, we were riding a heady wave of Eldar love, and I think the Distortion Cannon has taken the warp out of Brett today.
I like the little jet one that they have. That was in the top left corner, I think. That's one I liked. I don't know if it actually does this, but it kind of looks like the wings might move.
If that's the Nightwing, yeah, they fold in for top speed and they fold out for more maneuverability and stuff, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, I like that one. That's my favorite out of them, just by looks wise.
Well, I'd like the angel on the bomber is incredible there. I think though. So yes, we're on to our final segment. If I just get rid of all these flies. Boop, boop, boop. The embodiment of the Eldar at war and everything that is leery and serious about the Eldar is the Avatar of Khaine. Dum dum dum. So at the end of the Battle of Heaven, as we sort of slightly mentioned earlier, there was lots of people crumbling. If the Nightbringer's Necrodermis was crumbling to pieces, Khaine's spirit at the end of the Battle of Heaven was shattered and landed upon the craft worlds, which enabled them to have him called to battle and aid them when war came, which is good times. The Avatar of Khaine is a construct made from his essence, ancient metals and fire. They slumber in the bowels of the craft world until they hear the call of war and begin to stir. This awakening is felt by all of the craft world, but more strongly by the aspect warriors and seers, and is completed when the young king, one of the autarchs chosen by the far seers on a yearly basis, is draped in the cloak and given the Wailing Doom, which is the weapon of the Avatar, which can either be a sword or a spear or any kind of melee weapon really. And then, so they're given the Cloak and the Wailing Doom of the Avatar during the rituals that can take up to hours or days, depending on how pressing the war is, I would imagine. And finally, the Avatar raises and consumes the young king and is reborn ready for war. It's not certain what happens to the young king, whether they become one with the Avatar or it feeds upon them. One thing is for sure, though, they are not seen again, and most likely immolated to pieces within the form of the Avatar. On the battlefield, the Avatar is like a living titan made of metal, blood and fire with molten lava core. It's fearless and often leads the charge, imbuing the Eldar around him with memories of their glorious past and almost all-consuming bloodlust. The Wailing Doom is an ancient weapon that comes in the form of a giant great melee weapon that can pierce any armour and even the warped hide of demons, as well as being able to deal devastation from damage from range, incorporating waves of psychic fire. So that's fun. Flaming Sword of Death that also fires flaming death. It's a hardy construct of molten metal and immune to any heat-based weapon, though it's not entirely invincible. It is, however, immortal, and should an Avatar ever fall in battle, its essence will return to its craft world home. I've got to say, when looking into that, I was hoping to find out a bit more about these guys. Now, I'm sure we'll have to do a bit more reading and a bit more stuff in time, and maybe mention them again in some show. But they are, the living embodiment of the god of war of the Eldar, and some serious chaps. Brett, how do you feel about these molten monstrosities?
The Avatar of Khaine, looking at it from a Fluff perspective, when the Avatar of Khaine takes the field, it starts marching towards you. Oh, fuck me. Wow. That's a pretty good time to shit your pants. In terms of the video games, he whooped a lot of ass in the original Dawn of Wars. Wasn't quite so bombastically effective in Dawn of War 2, but in terms of, when the Eldar really go to war, the awakening of the Avatar is such a dramatically important aspect of the Eldar War. In the books, aspect warriors find themselves overcome with rage and bloodthirst when the Avatar's just walking by. I personally think that the Avatar is a really, really good unit in a lot of ways. Not sure how effective he is on the tabletop, but he's integral to the whole, Eldar thing.
The way Eldar do war. He is war. And what is he good for? Quite a lot, to be honest. So Toxic, how does this lava-based monstrosity come about on the field? How do you find him?
I like them. However, I do find he does suffer from, the fluff kind of makes him seem a bit stronger than what he is on the tabletop. That might be because the codex itself is a little bit dated now. But in general, if we don't look at the fluff and it's just pure rules, like he's a nice, relatively cheap HQ that is a monstrous creature and can do some serious damage. However, he's not the strongest monstrous creature out there, and enough firepower is going to bring it down. I think it's just a 3-up save and then like a 4-up vulnerable save. I believe that's it, or it might be, yeah. And so they go down. I've taken a fair few of them down with Space Marine Captain on a bike with a Storm Shield and a Thunder Hammer, but I think it's only like 170 points or something like that. So definitely a good unit, but doesn't really match the fluff too much. Like I think he could, and I think you might find in the new codex he might be more points and be a little bit stronger. But, yeah.
It's interesting. I've been nice to see him. The Eldar do tell a good story though, so and he's kind of huge and powerful compared to them themselves. So maybe they are a little bit more excited about the shard of their god than the rest of us are.
Yeah, I mean he's definitely good for his points and strong and tough, and he doesn't get affected by flame weapons like meltaguns, flamers, and stuff like that. So that's definitely a plus for him.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I do like the fact that his molten body is just having none of that.
I mean, I've burst him, and he's just wrecked my day when I had my Imperial Guard vets and chimeras, and all my plasma gun guys are dead, and all I had left was meltagun guys. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? So I just had to hide in the corner until the game ended. So it's actually I got my chimeras, and I just castled myself into the corner, so he didn't have enough time to destroy that many chimeras. So.
I do like it. That is the one thing that's what I always think is kind of odd about how the game actually works, is that like we're gonna stop now, okay? like you're not gonna stop the Avatar. Yes, end of turn 5. I've rolled. No, sorry. The Avatar's just like throws out his sword, heads home. So I kind of think that kind of brings us to the end of another Fluff Talk. Is there anyone people want to say about the Eldar War or the things we've discussed before we start kind of wrapping up and going into the outro? Nope. Okie dokie. Well, yeah, the Eldar were lovely, beautiful people, but they broke my heart when they sucked people into the warp. I mean,
yeah, I don't know how if it lines up in Fluff like that, but on the tabletop they are one of those armies that each unit kind of has its role, and that's what it has to do. And if you find yourself in a situation where you have to go up against something that's not your role to take down, you'll start having problems. But apart from that, you know, if everyone just sticks to their role, they're a very tough army to beat.
And
even with an older codex.
Awesome scenes. So yeah, I do believe that is the end. Does anyone have an idea of what they might fancy chatting about next time? Any ideas? I know we're doing the Imperial Guard books next, so I wonder if you want to sort of get into Catachans and some other sort of specialist Imperial Guard units.
I don't know. Maybe not. We can. I like to know what chat room would like to hear about in terms of background and stuff.
Yeah. Any ideas from chat room about what to flufficize next time?
Speak now or forever hold your peace, chat room.
Don't say hold your peace to Ramblings of Ian. He's holding a dong pattern bolter. The guard would be fun. So, yeah. I'd kind of quite like to do maybe the 2 or 3 or 4 specialist, like the Catachans, maybe Death Corps. Yeah, exciting stuff. Yeah, okay, maybe we watch this space. Oh, or Chaos. People have asked for Chaos actually. We
could because after Imperial Guard we'll be doing the Night Lords, so we could possibly start, thinking about Chaos.
Okay, well. It's going to be Imperial Guard or one aspect of Chaos. We're not going to cram Chaos into one. We'll probably go either a Guard.
Oh yeah, it'll be we'll touch on like something. Yeah, Chaos will be one of those things where we'll be running with it for probably 2 months.
Yeah, it's going to take a little while. Okay, lots of Chaos from Fox, and we did have a request on the last video. So should we say Tzinch? Are people up for Tzinch for the next episode? Yeah.
I mean, I only get brought here to kind of bring the fluff into the game, so you guys pick the topics and I just show up when you...
That's cool. I just wondered if you had an opinion, though. So that's cool. So, yeah, some kind of Chaos, for sure. Possibly Tzinch in 2 weeks. Good times. And you'll be joining to get that onto the tabletop with that Thousand Suns and things.
Yeah, I have played a Thousand Suns army before. For a few months.
Awesome scenes. And I do look forward to learning the origins of the tiny pink budgie Bobo and his evil Tzinch ways that affected our Savage Lands game. So yeah, I will thank you guys that have joined us. I would also remind everyone that Dice Troop is a non-profit organisation. Everything we do is for free. It will continue to be free, but on the Dice Troop Tumblr page we do have a donate if you'd like to do that, and I do know one of the wonderful people who are with us today has donated to us recently, so thank you one more time for that. And yeah, I'll see you guys. We'll see you in a couple of weeks, and next week we have got Black Vault, looking at the Path of the Eldar, finishing off the Eldar, and Saturday the Hammer, looking at 3D printing and all the usual news and rumours, and looking at your army lists. I saw it. Probably should have thrown that over to you, Toxic. to be honest.
No, you did it. You did well. You did okay.
Awesome scenes. Well, unless anyone else has anything to say, I will leave it there. So, thank you for joining us, and we shall see you guys soon. Tatty bye.
Adios, amigos.